so hard to achieve carbon neutrality, and on the other hand, consumers are shifting towards cleaner mobility options, the EV market is now a hotbed for innovations and, of course, international competition. So to learn more about this industry, we are very honored to be joined by three distinguished guests today. So they are Georg Grotendorf, Senior Vice President of R&D at Magna, and Mr. Qinli Hong, President and co-founder of NIO, and also Guillaume Gros, partner at EFS Consulting. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, let's start by discussing what's ongoing right now in the global EV industry. Yeah, so what keywords or phrases you guys would like to use to describe the current trends? Georg?
Okay. Yeah, if you ask me what kind of keywords I would use right now to describe the industry, of course, we talk about, a market overall that may be settled by 100 million. We have new players on the market, new powertrains, new architectures, very strong competition, and of course, established OEMs fighting against those new market players, as Leon is from NIO.
Okay, if I have to use one word to describe that, I would use irreversible transformation. Although there are a lot of discussions and a lot of thoughts, I think the trend is irreversible.
For me, it's super exciting times. It's extremely dynamic. I agree with the irreversibility, so electric, that is the future. The only question is, when will this future be?
Yes, so irreversible trend and also very excited, and all of these areas that we will delve into later. So as you all have businesses across the world, what do you think are the key differences in EV adoption across different regions, like China, the US, and Europe?
Actually, I think this is quite complicated and a profound question. It's very hard to answer that in one sentence. I think a lot of things will work on the result. For example, one thing is the geographic features. It will be adapted more easily in warmer places than in colder places, for example, because the batteries will work in a better way. And also the network of infrastructure of charging and swapping is the key. We can imagine that if there is so many gas stations around the street corners, the ICE cars will not be sold anymore. So the development of the infrastructure is quite diversified in different places. And the third one, I think it's not scientific one, but it's reality, is the status quo of the industry, the car industry in different countries. If the ICE car is very strong, so it will get harder.
Yes, I see Georg is nodding. Yeah, Guillaume, who want to go first?
Sure, thanks. Maybe to add some numbers to that everybody's on the same page. So I think the NEV adoption in China is overall 25%. In Europe, we have around 14%, and in the US, it's 7%. So you see huge differences worldwide. And this is only BEV, okay? If you count the plug-in and the hybrids, if you count them in, then it's in China and Europe, it's roughly 40. In the US, it's 20. So still there is a huge difference. And I believe you can explain a lot of difference if you look even deeper. So also in China, you have the tier 1 cities with, let's say, motivational politics that people tend to buy rather EVs and BEVs, whereas in the rural areas, it might not be so vastly spread. In Europe, we have a similar, well, not similar to China, of course, it's not the same pace, the same way, but still there is some politicians that drive this path. And in the US, it's basically California that is really supporting the transition, and everybody else is a bit reluctant, I would say.
I think that describes very good that customers in the different market have different expectations to the vehicle, and from historical point, different use cases. So we see right now that the adoption of new technology, may this be in ADAS or electrification, is moving forward much faster in China yeah, than in the rest of the world. But vehicle types and vehicle styles, of course, differ rather around the world. Yeah, as you know, especially in the US, we have a large population of trucks, which is by itself from physics a challenge. Yeah. On the other hand, Chinese customers we see very much more adaptable and coming in with new approaches, for example, software as a product. Yeah. Chinese customers we see much more as being willing to pay for extra features and sometimes even pay per use. This is not established in the other markets. So there are different challenges around the world for different markets. And as you said with your numbers, yeah, we don't see the same penetration all around the world, but we all agree it's the only way to move forward if we really want to achieve sustainability. And we learned this morning from Stephen, the professor at Stanford University, 52 gigatons of CO2 emission every year. I mean, that's a challenge for the mankind. Yeah.
And also, just like Georg mentioned, Chinese market is expanding especially fast. So I've got many questions from my foreign friends asking me the same question, like, why is it developing so fast? And Mr. Qing, because you're from one of China's leading EV makers, yeah, what would be your answers?
I think, a very large reason that several years ago, we did not have very much the cumulative asset in the traditional industry. So it's easier for the whole country to transform. That's one reason. And another one is that, including Neo and other entrepreneurs, I think the entrepreneurship in the EV industry in China is especially applaudable during these years. Because so many people are trying so hard, so after several years, you will say the change of the technology. And we apply the new technology into our products very promptly. And also we consider in the same time, not only the product and technology, but also the service and also the user's holistic experience. We do that in the same time. So we can see a positive feedback from the market. So we are encouraged and we'll try more. So for me, because I'm in this industry, maybe I cannot describe that from a bird's view. So that's my personal feeling.
Yeah. Then how do you guys?
Well, I think in China we see a lot of arguments and positive end factors coming together. Yeah. First, by itself, you have a large market. Second, then you have from the government a 5-year plan so that you can make sure energy production, energy grids, and the automotive industry, they somehow work hand in hand. That's very good. That's a huge advantage, which we are sometimes missing the rest of the world because we have independent companies, sometimes with independent business plans, and that does not really support each other and the other one of the other industry. And there was a new start. I mean, with e-vehicles, we saw a lot of startups in China, yeah, where the Western OEMs, they were focusing still on combustion engine, very profitable business for a long time. And now they have to change. We have to change the industry together. And as I already mentioned, I think Chinese consumers are really looking forward into new technology, yeah, may even accept then some deviations where the established OEMs really test very long on quality and last and final topics, yeah. And we must not forget the established OEMs. They started with a different approach. They have global platforms which they try to sell all around the world, whereas, of course, Chinese startups and EV companies first and only focus on the local market, which is somehow, I will not say a little bit easier, but yeah, maybe the application rate then is a little bit less than trying to apply models for the worldwide market. So a lot of topics coming together which made this tremendous growth in EV penetration in China.
Georg?
And to add to that, I can totally agree. Just another number that I've learned recently. Since you have this 5-year plan, since a lot of people invested and invest into the EV market, it's a super hot topic, isn't it? On the other hand, it was like around 400 startups worldwide that started with EVs that did not survive. So it's a long journey until such a product like you come to the market. It's not easy to build such a car with all the regulations and limitations that you have. And yeah, that's the entrepreneurial spirit that was also pushed forward, and a lot of hands that work together here.
Yes. And each market has different characteristics. Just like George mentioned, there are still many trucks in the US. And also, how do you see those traditional automakers adapting to this rapid rising EV trend?
Well, all of the global automotive manufacturers right now do have their emission and fleet targets. And at least they all agreed to the Paris Agreement. So it's irreversible, as Li Hong already mentioned. Yeah. The question is, how fast can you adapt? We have to understand they have investment, they have factories, they have infrastructure built on current technologies, and now they have to change over to e-mobility, which is, of course, a huge investment, and they have to take care about all the vehicles which are in the field. Yeah. New startups don't have to take care of, let's say, 100,000 or even 1 million vehicles that are in the field already and have to be maintained and serviced by aftermarket parts and components, and the existing ones have to do so. So it's a challenge for them. On the other hand, as we have heard from George, they have an advantage as well. I mean, they have a supply chain in place already. They know their markets, yeah. They know how to handle it. They have the supply chain, established suppliers, yeah, and that's a benefit for them. But on the other hand, they have to adapt to the new technology. And we all know it's a challenge. For an EV, you need less workers at the assembly line. They also have to take care about their employees and manage the transformation. So it's an additional challenge that they have in some cases of existing platforms. Of course, startups do have the same challenge building up new platforms. So they both have that challenge.
Yes, true. And also you mentioned the employees, because I've visited some new energy vehicle factories and also NEOs. Fewer and fewer laborers are actually working in the site, right? Currently.
Yeah, in the assembly line, it's true. Yeah. It's more and more highly automated, you know, the whole factory. But that's not the key. That's just a result of the, you know, so many years development of the equipment industry. Yes. But the key is digital technology.
Yes.
For example, our new factory in Hefei, before we construct, you know, anything, we buried the cables, you know. So what's the length? It's about 90 kilometers cables underneath to make sure that the factory will be digitally capable enough in the next decades. So that's a huge investment, but nobody can see it.
Yes, true. Yeah, next time we can go visit the factory to learn more about, there must be much data being collected there. And also, now with a clearer picture of the current EV trends, it's also very important for us to discuss, in such a crowded market, how can those EV makers better differentiate themselves to stand out in such a crowded market? What suggestions do you guys have?
So it's an absolutely important question, because ultimately it's a market, and the market needs that you have customers, and customers have customer buyer criteria. They want to have a benefit, a personal benefit, an emotional benefit, a functional benefit. And to really find your own sweet spot, the thing that really defines your USP, that is important for each and every company. As I mentioned earlier, it's not easy to build up a car company. And I mean, you have great examples. I think you have BYD, who is focusing on technology and also a reasonable price. I think there is Li Auto that really does this extended range EVs. There is your famous company, and you have the battery swapping, which also counters this range anxiety, which a lot of consumers might feel one day. Also, you're building up the community spirit. That's maybe also an important topic, and seamless integration. So it's really important that each and every company is very close to their customer, understands their customer, and builds product and services for their customers.
I would fully agree. I think the key point for new companies in that market is to focus on the market segment. As a market overall, may even not grow significantly in the future, it's important to really identify which market segment do I want to address. And there are a lot of applications. This may be luxury, sportive cars, cars for everyone, which are cheaper than others, or even a daily delivery vehicle. So we see a lot of startups that dedicated focus into a niche or a dedicated market segment where still room for growth and place for growth is, and that can be profitable business, of course. Yeah. And then, of course, the attitude of additional functionality. Where do I place a vehicle segment or my product in more autonomous driving or conventional driving? So I think there are a lot of KPIs that a manufacturer can address, and then really go forward stringently to address that market segment. I think an overall approach to address the overall market for a startup will be rather difficult.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that question. That question about differentiation, for me, it could be the most important one, given the circumstances today. I think there's one profound question we need to answer before we start to do anything. What will be the end? What will be the competitive map in the future, in the end, in 20, even 50 years? There are two different typical answers. You know, every leader of every company, they have different ideas. One party thinks there will be very few companies will survive. So today's best tactic is to kill others first, to make sure that you are one of the few from today. So that's the origin of the price war of many phenomenon that we can see today from the market. And we are the other party. We think, you know, the car market will be diversified anyhow, but maybe, you know, the players will be changed. But there's no way that in 20, 30 years, there will be less than 10 automotive companies in the whole world, because, you know, cars, like food, like costume, it's a quite personal thing. Somebody buy it because someone else buy it. It's proven reliable. Someone don't buy it because many two other people buy it. They just don't want to be look the same in the street. So if you see the whole history, the best car company in the world, the share, of course you are the expert, was around 10% or 15% at the most. You cannot find a car brand, you know, occupies more than 20 or 30% of the market share. So that's the profound fundamental of this industry. So if you realize if that's true, so today the most important thing is to be yourself, to make your differentiation. Perhaps, you know, for example, our power swap system, I know there are a lot of discussion around it. Maybe the whole thing is wrong. Maybe just because it's not the time yet. If you want to build a network, you know, you have to reach a certain degree of density. Once, you know, you reach that, things will change overnight. People will think, wow, this is great. We have experienced a lot in this kind of, we call that network effectiveness, like the e-commerce, logistics, the restaurants around along the streets, and even if we go back to 1 century ago, the number or availability of the gas stations. If there were no gas stations, you know, not too many gas stations, there were no car industry at all. So we are doing right things and waiting for the turning point so that we can prove our USP will work. So that's where we are today.
Yes, and we know that NIO's, one of its differentiation strategies is that Georg also mentioned the battery swapping stations. So how is that battery swapping stations ongoing so far, both in China and Europe?
Yeah, if in one sentence we say so far so good. As of today, we have around 2,540 power swap stations in China and around 60 of them in Europe, just in 5 European countries. And we are going to deploy our very first one within 1 month in UAE. I'm very excited about it. Wow. That's the status quo. I would say we have tried our best. That's very many, but that's not enough. To reach the sweet point, as George mentioned, I think we at least need to triple that number within several years.
In how many years?
In 3 years, for example, as soon as we can, as soon as we can. But of course, as a company, we still face a lot of challenges, you know, that's our wish. And you have to have this roadmap, the production capacity, for example, the iteration of your equipment to accommodate, you know, the evolving technology, and also especially the financial resources. So we have to have some more clever way to collaborate with the social resources, not doing that all by ourselves. That's not a correct thing for a company to do. But more power swap station will definitely bring more sense of safety or sense of freedom and will result in more consumption. That is no question.
I mean, adding to that, because you didn't say one number, I think it's roughly 55 million swaps that you already carried out, which I was also impressed about to hear.
Yeah.
And I think you're tackling this range anxiety topic, which is definitely a topic, and also in cities like in my city, I'm from Vienna, and it's an old city, and you don't have a lot of possibilities to charge your car. And then there's regulations, and if you have a garage, it's not given that you can have a wall box there. So it can help. It can help, absolutely. And there is Stellantis who teams up with Ampel, it's another company, and tries out this battery swapping in Madrid with a small 500Es from Fiat. So it's an idea that also others try. Is it the right one? History will tell, time will tell. Yeah. Of course, if you have more charging stations, that may be a counter effect, and maybe the cars in itself might be more expensive. If you have this option, then you don't have this option. But it's tackling the right problem.
Yes. I don't want to throw water into the wine, but I think we have to watch the market perspective from different point of views. Yeah, as we have today, different kind of powering ICE motors. We have gasoline, we have diesel, we have direct injection, natural aspirate. I think battery swapping will be one solution. Yeah, we as Magna believe in that, but for dedicated market segments again. We have not so many swappings done as you have right now, but we are one of the largest swapping station providers in India. We invest into that technology for two-wheelers. Yeah, we have experience right now 15 million changes, doing somehow 1 million per month. So we are gaining experience with that. But especially on the other side, we are one of the experts in battery trays, how to package a battery and integrate it into a chassis. And from vehicle performance, we must not forget that there is a significant advantage. If you fully integrate the battery into the chassis, you can create additional stiffness. That was a challenge years before. And to have even that stiffness around a cage for a battery, you have to somehow invest something more into the material, into the chassis of a Neo or whatever kind of vehicle without the battery. So there is an advantage, and I think it's an advantage for a dedicated market segment. On the other hand, we must accept as well that OEMs differ in battery chemistry. So can you manage different kind of chemistries additionally to different kind of packages all around the world? And as I said, depending on what kind of use case you see and what kind of characteristics you want to realize with that vehicle. Swapping is one solution that definitively will have its market segment. And definitively for two-wheelers, I see an even better chance than for four-wheelers. But will this be the only solution, and will it be possible to create a worldwide standard that every OEM joins? also convinced this will not happen. Therefore, we have too many different DNAs with too many different OEMs. Yeah.
Yes, true.
Agree.
Yeah, really agree. As I said, I always a believer of diversity. I don't think the world should be unified in that way. That's not the richness that people would appreciate.
Yes. Also, maybe like in the future, different brands or different car models can all like use the same or similar types of battery swapping stations. That would be more convenient for
Highly
customers.
possible.
Yeah.
But I think that result will be a result from the market, not regulation.
Yeah. Then what kinds of helps do you guys think that maybe it would need to further promote such a model?
Today, I think there are several folds of the merits of the battery swapping network. One is everybody can tell it will help users to get their cars refilled, get energy quickly and easily. That's the apparent one. And there are some other reasons. For example, the upgradability. Now we offer upgradable business services for our users. So for the normal days, you just need to buy a smaller battery pack with less money. For the city commuting, our statistics shows that our users, now almost 600,000 of them in China, for average people per day, they drive only 60 kilometers per day, so they don't need that huge and expensive battery. But if you want to drive long way, for example, go all the way to Tibet, or from China to Vienna, you can upgrade your battery, and the daily fee for the upgrade service is only equal to 1 cup of coffee, around 50 RMB per day. And you can rent that battery in number of days. And then, so all the swap stations will be the enabler for that business. That's one thing. And also another benefit, for example, every time when you change or swap your battery, it's a protection of your battery pack, because every time we will survey the whole battery, and if the battery is in bad condition, it will be recognized and be repaired in time, not waiting or sitting in the car until one day it bursts into some more severe incidents or so. So it's like a battery hospital that keep all the battery in average in a more healthy status. That will help our users. And also imagine after several years, when you want to sell your car, if the battery is fixed or integrated after, for example, 8 years, that battery is almost valueless. But you can go to our swap station, spending 100 RMB, get an average age battery, so that the used car of your asset is highly protected. Since the whole industry today is so young, is so young, so very few people thinking about the aged society problem. But those problems are always there. You cannot just pretend they are not there. So those problems will emerge in massive scale in several years, and people will know that the whole swapping system is also a protection of the battery and a protection of user rights.
The residual value, basically, is that what you're just tackling the topic. And we see that in Europe as well, that basically the aged EVs have a huge loss of value. Also due to the price war. I mean, if you have a lower price for the new vehicle, of course, then the used vehicle is also cheaper. But definitely the question about the battery and what happens if you buy an aged car, you said 8 years, and they have to invest into new battery, of course the residual value is lower, right? So still the question is it worth the investment, the capex, and the business case behind? Sure. So this is, it's a bet, It's
you're right,
really
George. It sounds very good, I know that. But it will go back to the management team, how you are going to manage it financially, especially financially. Of course, we need to finance our devices and also batteries. So it will be a combination of the car industry and also the finance industry. The batteries are the assets that some other companies want to manage and get value from it. Now we are trying that as well.
The question you were asking was what kind of help is necessary. I think here the debate shows really it's market acceptance. Yeah, I think there is no rule that can be put in place that really boosts the market as long as you have attractive use cases for the end customers. Yeah, then customers accept it, and then it's a promotion by itself. Yeah, and the battery age and of course the performance of the battery are key for residual value of an electric vehicle. And I think battery swapping is one answer out of that. When managing the battery, of course, you have to accept when buying a brand new car and you go to the first swapping, then you may be or you may have not an included completely new battery that someone else has with a brand new car. But if it is beneficial for the end customer and he can swap again and with that maintain the residual value, yeah, it's a solution for a dedicated market segment, definitively.
And adding to that, adding to that market acceptance, totally agree. And I mean, maybe you guys know we are experiencing some nosedive currently in Europe, especially also in Germany, because the market acceptance without subsidies that we had earlier is not given anymore. So you need market acceptance really in market conditions. This is another huge step forward.
Yeah, of course. As we discussed, the momentum is there, and the trend is irreversible. But along the way, we see ups and downs, of course.
Yeah, and especially, as you, George, mentioned, Germany right now, when the car industry and the energy providers don't walk hand in hand, and energy price raises up dramatically, especially in peak times when people go on vacation and on holiday and then do long distance travel, and then suddenly you have to pay more than €1 per kilowatt hour. It's unattractive. Yeah, then the whole business model to own a battery electric vehicle, where you in most times these days you pay even more than for an ICE engine, and the basic idea was pay more as you buy it, but then have less running costs. And yeah, as both now goes into the wrong direction, the business case for private people is simply gone. Yeah.
And also, I believe it's just for a while. For example, the German situation, as you mentioned. But still, I think the trend is already there.
Yes, true. The trend is already there. And also going back to the differentiation strategies topic. So Mr. Qing mentioned, joked to kill others first. So what should those EV makers consider first to differentiate themselves? Are there some practical advice for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, I think every company, of course, has a strategy, but every strategy just is different. Some strategy is for maybe short-term advantages. Some strategies are for longer term. Because if you check the whole history of the new energy vehicle, I'm only talking that in China. The booming history of the industry is less than 5 years. In year 2020, the penetration rate of the NEV in whole China was about 5.6%. That's year 2020, just 4.5 years ago. And this year, I guess, it will be very close to 50% the whole year. And actually, in July and August, consecutively for 2 months, penetration, the penetration rates were higher than 50%. So that is the trend. So because the history is too short, so for the first stage, maybe the majority of the players they want to leverage the physical things as the differentiator, like the car itself, product definition, and also the hard technologies. And if you check the longer history of the whole car industry, for the past 1 century, maybe you can draw a conclusion that all the physical things will look alike very soon, in another 3 to at the most 5 years, I guess. So the soft power will get more and more important. So I think today there is the urge for all the brands and all the decision makers in the industry to think about the soft power, branding, community, your connection to your users, and also maybe the social status, a lot of things, beyond the physical products, and also, of course, the service network, and the way you treat your user, and the way you treat the whole planet, maybe. Those things are key today, but I think that will be the most important key in the future. So I really suggest that every team in this industry, at least we need to start to think about that, to design it, to execute it, and also to learn from our mistakes along the way for the implementation to make sure that we are fully prepared for the future.
I see some more challenges than you, Li-Hong. Sorry for that, but I think as we watch out for the global market right now, and as we consider all around the globe right now starting to evaluate the CO2 footprint, yeah? I mean, Western OEMs are forced to think about local for local, and we have to face the fact that some materials are not available in the Western world. So will we see one technical solution? Will it be a permanent magnetism machine all around? No, I guess it will be not, yeah? Western OEMs are working heavily to find alternatives to PSM machines, yeah? Whatever kind of material, if external excitation or different materials is about, that may be different, yeah? But in principle, I agree with you, it will be an e-drive train, yeah? But as to my example before, we may see diesel drivetrains equivalent, we may see gasoline, so there are different architectures where the physics in detail may differ all around the globe. But will it be electrical? Yes, I think here we all agree, yeah, because electrical and electric drivetrains have the highest efficiency that we can imagine. But coming back to the battery discussion as well, from physics, the battery is simply an energy storage system. Will this be a unified chemistry? Will we see different variants of it? May this be NMP, or may this be LFP, or NMC, or LFP, or whatever, or even solid state? Yeah, there will be a broad variance. So in general, once again, it will be an e-drivetrain, but I think in terms of physical directions, there will be a broad portfolio of technical solutions that we will see in the market.
And maybe adding to that, Zoe, because I think you asked about differentiation, and we had it earlier a bit in terms of the world will not be unified. I think you emphasized on it, Jörg. And so the differentiation is really market per market. You have within market even different consumers and your personal group that you want to sell the products to, and this is the group you have to, at the end, work with, right? And just deliver the value that this group really wants to pay money for.
Yeah, I think maybe we are at a point to get in the theme of this panel, the trade. I agree with you. Apparently, because of availability and many other realistic reasons, people would think, there is no so-called freedom choice of different roadmaps. But I think, more transparent and more free international trade or investment system will help that a lot. Last year, I visited Budapest, and I learned from our friends in Hungary that perhaps it is the biggest single investment project in Hungarian history is the CATL production base located in Hungary. Of course, there are a lot of difficulties and obstacles along the way for all the implementations. But I truly hope that CATL can work with the local partners and bring the battery technology and also supply, make it more convenient and, of course, cheaper and more reliable to all the OEMs, that will be a great help for the whole industry. But if this kind of international collaboration is not easy, so I think all the development of the industry in different places will be more difficult as well. So today, sorry for that. I think some difficulties are objective, they are there. Some difficulties are created by us.
Created by us?
By us, by human societies,
Could you elaborate it a bit more?
Yeah, different parties, governments, different countries, companies, we should make those things easier.
Yes.
That's our job to do.
Yes, and DC.
I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. But on the other side, is it new to the automotive industry? No, it is not. We are used to it. Yeah, years ago, we were only talking about joint venture manufacturing sites in China when Western OEMs wanted to get into. Now we have a different topic. I think the most relevant is that we have clearance in a roadmap that really all partners investing into that industry, and at least, of course, the OEM and the suppliers and everybody who's investing too, can rely on a mid to long-term plan that it makes sense to invest in the region. From a overall perspective, local for local is always the best. If we could eliminate logistics in between, of course, a lot of logistics companies would suffer, but from a CO2 perspective, producing a material and directly consuming it next door
Absolutely.
would be the best. Very clear, yeah? And that may be a solution, as you mentioned, with foreign investments. And yeah, as said, I think the automotive industry is used to it. Of course, at Magna, we do offer with manufacturing and vehicle design, especially service for our customers to get the food into the door in a local market. But the most most important topic is that you can plan for it, that you can bake it into the strategic planning, in your financial planning, and then you have the guarantee that you can execute as you have planned. Of course, it's toxic for the whole business if we have fluctuation due to party changes or whatever kind of president changes, and then you have to adapt to a new situation, which may make the further investment obsolete, and that's, of course, overall not even supportive, yeah, and very complex to manage at the end for the industry.
Agreed.
Yes, because each market have very different regulatory requirements. So just like the CATL project you mentioned, that's very impressive because it's also, on the other hand, very difficult, kind of difficult for Chinese EV makers to go abroad as well. What are some main challenges that you guys see for Chinese EV makers who want to go expand into the international market?
Well, I guess the first question is in which area you want to go.
Yeah.
There is some tension, I guess, if you want to go to the US. Actually, I'm not sure whether that's the best idea. If you want to really bet on it,
they raised the tariffs on Chinese EVs, and also 100% since today, right?
Exactly, and they have also experience with it. I mean, I think in the 80s there have 75% was domestically produced cars. And then they forced basically the Japanese to also invest into the plants over there, and then currently it's only 39% domestically from domestic U.S. car makers. And there was even the commercial. You remember maybe that Toyota said, "Okay, we are more American than the real American producers." That was kind of funny. So sometimes it also backleashes and it's not really a help. So if you from China, basically, if you want to say what would I say, not US, rather Europe, and even there it's difficult.
I agree. I agree. We started our business in 5 European countries since 2021. Unfortunately, a lot of things changed afterwards. But still, I think European markets is a valuable market every single player should consider in a serious way. Of course, I agree with what you said. The local production, local selling, local service would be the right thing to do. But for us, for example, for NIO, the key is timing. Of course, we cannot set a factory for day one because it takes a lot of investment and it takes too long to get it payback. So if we can export cars and to ramp up our volume there to a certain degree, so that I think local production is, of course, the right thing to consider. Still, I think, even though today the tariff is not that friendly, I still think European market is valuable for us.
Well, Jiong, we should exchange business cards afterwards. We manufacture for a lot of OEM brands.
I know that.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will find a
Of course.
slot in our
Of
manufacturing site in Graz where we even could produce NIO vehicles. So we could help you if you want me to.
Of course.
Back to your key question. Yeah, what or how can, independent if these Chinese OEMs or any other OEMs establish a market? I think what even the colleagues from NIO are doing pretty good is brand building. You have to build a brand. And if you look on how some of the EV makers failed, they forgot the consumer. Yeah, the buying of a vehicle is still buying of a luxury good, and people wanna be hosted personally. They want to know where is my service point, and you cannot sell vehicles these days on an online catalog and people just will click on and will buy a vehicle. And this has really something to do is do the end customers believe in that brand? If I have an issue with my vehicle, do I have a trusted service point that I can go to? And I think, yes, if we will see tariffs, and as I said before, you can bake it into the business model. It, of course, will be an additional challenge, no doubt about. But if we go local for local and you have a network, then the most relevant point, I think, is brand building and trust building for the end customer. Do they trust in that product? Are they okay with? We will definitively see software updates and upgrades in the future with over-the-air feature. Does that work properly? And does the customer at the end feel well treated? Then I think that's an excellent chance to get started in the market.
100% agree with you.
Yes,
Yeah,
and also,
branding
Li-Hong, you
trust.
mentioned to expand in the European market.
In which point? Should we build your vehicles or with the brand building?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry for asking that question.
Actually, NIO is a young company. We are going to celebrate our 10th anniversary in 3 months. Magna Steyr was one of our very first partners. We worked together very closely. But of course, Jörg, we are going to talk about that.
Thank you for mentioning. Yeah.
Coming back to the distribution network as well. If you look at who was first, it was Tesla who was first, right? And there were, if you look at this innovation curve, you have like 2.5%. It's the innovators that will accept, even though there is no distribution network. And Tesla has a very limited distribution network up to that day. It's amazing. But still, okay, these guys wanted to have it no matter what. Now then you have some other guys, but then to really reach the masses, you need to also meet their requirements, which is a distribution network, which is a service network, which really is a better offer than they have today. And today they have a lot of benefits, and this is the real challenge, to be not even better than the other EVs, but also than their offer that they're currently having, which is often ICE or hybrid.
Yes, true. I can't agree with you more. And also, Li-Hong, you mentioned to expand in the European market. So what are some new plans for localized strategies?
Since the change of the environment, including higher tariff, etc., now I have to tell the truth that we have tuned down our pace. Of course, we will still be there, but we need to be more patient. So for our further plans, I think we need to check it in a month-to-month basis and see when will be the right timing and what will be the right roadmap. But of course, with the great help from the capable local partners like Magna, that might change our schedule. I hope so.
What do you think?
Happy to
this is a
serve
very
you, as
nice
said. I think I owe you a coffee afterwards, right?
Honestly, concerning your positioning, it's going to be difficult, I believe.
Absolutely. For NEO brand, for example, today our sedan ET7 in German market, for example, specifically, together with the new tariff, our price could be more expensive than a Porsche. So that will be a challenge, but still we sell some. We have our loyal fans there. But if you want to sell a lot, it's really a challenge. So for NEO, now we are a multi-brand company. We just launched our second brand, Onvo, 2 weeks ago in China. So we need to homologate our cars to make it adaptable in European market and then hit to European market in 1 to 2 years. And that will change our map fundamentally. And we're going to launch our third brand, which is called, the brand today is still an internal code. We call it Firefly. It's a small car. And as a matter of fact, Firefly was designed for European market, not for Chinese market. You know, China is not a small car country. So our design team, engineer team, they're based in Europe. They designed that car for European users. So I think, you know, that car will be very promising. And since the first half of next year, we're going to deliver Firefly cars in different European markets. So the portfolio in the future will change the situation. If we just stand today, based the estimated volume of NEO brand only, a plan for a factory is too far away. But if you consider the whole portfolio, I think that day will come sooner.
But I think it only underpins, once again, that you're thinking about the market segment where you want to be in with Firefly. You said you address a dedicated segment in the market, yeah, which is absolutely right. And even listening to you, the most irritation in your forward planning is, of course, a change of the situation. It's not once the situation is stabilized again, I'm sure you will find a solution to work around it or work with it at the end. But always, if you have a drastic change in forward planning and in the actual situation, I can fully understand. That's same issue for us if we see different challenges to build a factory or whatever in different markets, and we have some hundreds of plants all around the world. But if you have a change in direction, it's always a threat. It's always a threat.
Yeah, but that's the situation all the enterprises will face all the time. Right?
And also, Li Hong just mentioned a very good point that worth discussing is about the tariffs imposed on Chinese EV makers who want to go abroad. So I'm just curious, how is NEO responding to this? How has tariffs on Chinese EV cars affecting its pricing strategy and also its strategies for market entry?
Yeah, as what George mentioned, depends on different markets. For example, today our NEO brand in our already existing 5 European markets, our strategy is very simple. We just stay there and wait. We don't believe that the tariff, by the way, I don't think it's reasonable. I don't think the tariff will be there forever, but you have to live with it. This is a part of our operation strategy, you know, should accommodate and wait for the chance in the future. But in the meantime, what is very important for us are 2 things. One is the branding and the reputation. For example, we don't cut off our employees thoroughly in European countries. Well, we have over 1,000 employees in those 5 countries. Comparing to the labor cost of China, that's a big deal for us. But we still hiring them. And second important thing is that we need to build up the user experience and get higher satisfaction rates to wait for in several years maybe. When we want to accelerate again, our momentum will be there. So that's for European markets. And now we are preparing and I have said that just now. We are preparing Middle East market, MENA, Middle East and North Africa. And the company has been set, our team is there. We start from UAE. And of course, everybody might know that now the security situation in some of the Middle East countries changing. So we need to, of course, doing our preparation as well as we keep our eye on the change of the whole situation. And always get yourself fully prepared so that when the chance is there, you can go first. Just like, a line of cars, waiting for the traffic lights. Now it's red or yellow, but you have to prepare for the green lights. When the light is green, it's a very cruel competition, among all these cars, who will go first. So that's our strategy. It differs a lot from market to market, and also it differs a lot from our portfolio strategy for 3 brands. That's the situation. It's not simple, but we are doing around it.
Yes. Wait for the right timing. Yeah. Anything to add? How do you guys think tariffs affecting Chinese EVs, and how can those EV makers get better prepared under such circumstances?
Well, as said, I think we mentioned that already several times right now. It's at the moment an additional barrier, but as I said, the industry is used to it. We talked about the joint venture situation we had before. Absolutely. OEMs found a solution for it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it disappears one day again, and then I like that example, to be ready for the launch again. But we will have a solution for that if we think about local for local, and of course that's something where we want to help our customers as well, with our engineering capabilities and at least manufacturing capabilities to easier adapt to the market, find the right segment, and find the right solution for it.
I mean, just to add, it's really interesting because not every so-called European OEM is happy about the tariffs themselves, because they produce also in China, and so their cars become more expensive as well. And I guess, I guess also that this is also a temporary situation, and we'll overcome it one day. And meanwhile, I think, as you said, you prepare yourself. You can ask yourself the question, the trade-off: is it worth to go into the market to invest into local production in order to get a cheaper selling price? Do you want to do that? Is the market strong enough? Is your forecast high enough? Your business case positive? Then I guess you can do it. And basically what is important is you stay innovative, right? You stay prepared, you stay innovative, and you don't halt.
And apart from those finished vehicles, tariffs on EV components, like those semiconductors and also like batteries, also impact the entire supply chain. So how do you guys anticipate trade policies affecting the supply chain for the EV sector?
Yeah, as a component supplier, as I mentioned before, we are trying to find alternative solutions. And this is not only due to the tariffs, but it is boosted again by the full CO2 equation. Yeah. So these days, and the industry so far was more or less only used to be measured on tailpipe emissions. Yeah. And now with the complete CO2 regulation that is put in place, everything is being calculated. Not only the production, even the energy that you have, biodiversity we have to report, and the whole logistic. And everybody can imagine, is it at least healthy for the planet to produce components and ship them around the globe, even if these are heavy batteries or heavy powertrains? No, we again get to the solution that we somehow have to be more localized. And if we watch out for disasters in the latest history, may this be a tsunami or earthquake, which have put the whole industry into a difficult situation, I think we have to find solution for that. And the awareness, I think, to do so is at the end positive. Yeah. Will all the materials be available all around the world? No, it will not. But there should be a motivation to do research and analysis to find alternatives that can be used. Yeah. Not only for the high sophisticated material, but to become CO2 neutral in long term, we even have to think about more recycling markets and more sustainability, yeah? Reusing metals, reusing plastic, use more natural materials. So I think the picture by itself is a little bit bigger than only talking about the tariff situation, which is currently a major topic. But to solve the general topic, CO2 emission and sustainability, we have even to manage more, and especially when it comes to recycling topics and use of clean materials, independent if a battery is swapped before or not. After 8 years, it may be at the end anyhow, if used in a single car, or if it is swapped, maybe even earlier, because the usage of the battery and the physical stress of charging and discharging has even happened more often. So you have to think about what is then the recycling strategy. That will not, simply the swapping situation will not help to solve the end problem at the end. We have to think it completely through, yeah, and tariff is one point, but it's not part of the full equation. It's one part of the full equation, sorry.
So as we navigate through all these challenges and also trade policy difference, technological upgrade still stands at the forefront of such a revolution. So what would you guys say would be the most emerging technologies that may have the biggest impact on the EV sector in the next 5 to 10 years? Tell us some secrets. Who want to go first?
Well, as I sit next to you, I start. Yeah, of course, for EVs,
because
it will be
the expert.
Yeah, for the automotive industry and EVs, it will be, of course, the powertrain and the efficiency, energy storage, usage of the energy inside of the vehicle. This will be the e-drivetrain, the inverter, the battery, including everything, thermal households. So we are investing quite a lot, even in managing the battery in terms of performance, to be kept inside the vehicle safely, yeah, to manage the thermal household, as Leon already said. Behavior of the battery and performance is best in the same temperature area that human beings like, so that I think will be a lot of the investments we are going to see. Battery material, efficiency of powertrain, we are still not at the end. Silicon carbide, 800 volt, will become more and more standard in the market. That's one side. And at least, I think all around the globe, the customer expectation with an electric vehicle is different in terms of serviceability, software update, software apps, and usability than with ICE engines before. I did not really understand why, but when people change from an ICE engine to an electric vehicle, they expect much more performance in terms of software and upgradability than they expected before from the ICE engine, and I think that will be the second challenge. Yeah? But energy efficiency overall will be the topic number one.
Yeah. Please.
Maybe to add to that, because what happened with Tesla, just to show this example once more, he had a radical approach. You know, he basically invented a software-defined vehicle, which was not there before. So it's not only that the vehicle became electric, but also a complete different approach of how to design a car. And the software-defined vehicle makes it possible that you have these smart cars, as you might refer to, and you have these over-the-air updates, and you're super fast in developing stuff and you know, eliminating the bugs and adding new features and all of that. And so this is why it's, I think, combined. Actually, it's not related to the e-drivetrain. You can also have it with an ICE car. But since it was this car that combined the two, people tend to have it in mind that it's the same thing. And what you mentioned, Jörg, is the efficiencies and all of that translates for the consumers into longer range and cheaper prices, if the prices are given to the consumers, but at least longer range. What I hope for, you know, from a consumer perspective, what we should have in 5 years, it's the inductive charging. I think that's really a nice thing to have. You know, we have one country in Europe that has
Sweden.
And Norway. You know, Norway has 80% NEV penetration rate because it's super cold and people were used to plug their car in the winters because otherwise, you know, the battery would drop, and so they were used to it. other than that, people are not used to it. So if you have this inductive charging, I think that would be also a boost for the entire industry. And of course, to have this more autonomous driving, I think this software becomes better and the sensors become better and AI has better computing power. And I think these are, next to the efficiency, the two main topics that I see.
One comment I'd like to make to the inductive charging, again, I do see different solutions. Inductive charging may be one, but imagine how fast robot technology, AI, etc. is moving forward. I could also imagine that with the standardization of charging plugs all around the world, we have robot arms that then plug into a vehicle. That would be even more sufficient than inductive charging. We can even offer higher charging loads. With induction, you are somehow restricted to have, I will not say low, but low to mid-power charging forces. But imagine, that we have automatic as battery swapping. We have automatic stations where you get in and you have a robot arm that simply plugs in and then you can charge so that you don't have to touch it. From physical, of course, a direct metal-to-metal contact is still the most efficient compared to bridge over the air. It may this be inductive or capacitive or whatever,
Fair point.
We define our product strategy for NEO only, is that we think the future, the end product will be, we call that smart EV, smart electric vehicle. Those three words, actually each word is huge. Smart technology, electrification, and vehicle. Vehicle business is already very big. Not mentioning, like you said, maybe more diversified roadmaps of technologies in the future, like hydrogen, plug-in, hybrid, etc. So I think it's very hard to say which will be the single important technology in the future. Last year, we summarized what we have been doing in technological investment. We say that we invest in 12 different stacks. That's our roadmap for the full stack technology in NEO, including very apparently manufacturing technology, vehicle engineering, and battery system, e-motors, smart hardware like sensors and radar, etc. There are 12 different areas, so it's very hard to say which one is more important than the other one. But I want to say one thing will be important for all the stacks in the future, that is AI. The emerging AI technology will make all the different areas grow in a better way. Thank you for raising one of the examples. AI will help the plug-in experience, for the user, so that perhaps it will change, the inductive charging or other things, and also the AI-helped factory. Imagine in the future, and also the battery safety monitoring, a lot of things, especially the autonomous driving part. If the AI can help, I think the growth of autonomous driving will grow in a much faster manner versus today. So that will be the new foundation, the new oil or steam power. That will empower everything in the future. So I am really very look forward to the development of AI landscape in the future.
Yes, very looking forward to see how AI can help us live even more convenient and also to drive those EV cars more conveniently. And also, battery charging is also what most consumers care about. Mm-hmm. Are there some new solutions to help prolong the battery life that we ordinary people can envision in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think isn't it you who develops with KTL a 15 years lifespan battery, something like this?
That's underway.
It's on the way, right? So we are, in my opinion, in the beginning of the battery technology. There will be so much innovation coming, different, you mentioned earlier your LFP and NMC and different, even solid state. And so there's much innovation that lies before us, I totally believe.
What most people experience, I think, as you mentioned, Nihong, most of your customers, they do a daily drive of 60 kilometers. So I think the range anxiety is more a brain issue than really a physical issue. Of course, once, twice a year, when you go on vacation or whatever, a longer distance trip, then you may really have to think about where and how to charge, but AI may even help to optimize road planning with that. But I think most people experience that once they have really used an electric vehicle, that this is not the real issue, or maybe not that issue that they thought before. We still have some vehicles in the market with shorter range, yeah, but those people who have made up their mind, what kind of range do I need? Most of the experience that I hear from the market, it is not that topic that should have been a mind blocker before the first experience with an electric vehicle.
Yeah. I think it should be a combination of several things. One is longer life battery, as George mentioned. We are working on that together with CATL to produce a battery can last for 15 years, not 80 years as today. That's one thing. And the second thing is we need to balance the different features of the charging. You know, now here is a phenomenon that everybody markets, you know, the speed, you know, how fast they can charge the battery. But people don't know that, maybe some people don't know that. If you charge the battery in a faster way, your battery will die sooner. That will harm the health of the battery, so you have to manage the balance. So the real answer is not the speed of the charging, but the availability of the infrastructure. If you can, for example, if you can charge your phone everywhere, you don't need to fast charge it all the time. So this kind of deep reassurance is something we need to create for our users in near future. That's the second thing. And the third thing is that we should leverage the charging not only for serving the cars, but also serving for the power network, the electricity grid. So the V2G facilities, bi-directional chargers will be part of the future. That will leverage, you know, the cars as distributive storage facility as well. So let's imagine today there are more than 300 million cars running around China today. If at least half of them are electricity vehicles, or if they can also charge back to the grid, that will be a great power plant, you know, moving power plant organized by internet and all the infrastructures in the future. That will fundamentally reshape the power grid in China. And also, I believe in other countries, of course. For example, today, one of our power swap stations can earn money in Denmark because it can send electricity back to the grid and get some money back. It's a very promising business, and also that will be a great help for a more sustainable world in the future.
Yes, you mentioned
this depends on the perspective. Yeah, this depends on the perspective. I think we have to be very clear then. We mentioned several times that the battery is the most expensive part of an electric vehicle. And imagine you buy a brand new car, you don't use it, but you park it in the car and somebody else uses it, charging and discharging the battery. Yeah. So you reduce the residual value without using the car. And so, if you bring afterwards, you want to sell that vehicle again, you bring it to an independent tester.
That's why we need power swap stations. So if you worry that a lot, you swap your battery.
I simply want to draw your attention.
Then it's your problem. I mean,
I want to draw your attention
our strategy
to a dedicated issue. I mean, I think the specification for automotive battery is by far higher than for a stationary one. we talk about temperature variance, we talk about mechanical capabilities, we talk about vibration, stiffness. And this is the reason why the battery is the most expensive part in the car. And even to age this highly expensive component faster than the rest of the vehicle is okay as long as the user knows it and as he gets the right benefit back for it. Yeah, of course, as well, we have individual mobility because the vehicle is available all the time. When you want to get into, you can drive. Imagine, yeah, you have given full freedom to discharge the battery. You want to run to hospital, you turn on the key and it says, sorry, yeah, greetings to the end customer, but we energy provider, we consumed all your energy. Please wait until tomorrow morning. You can reuse the car again. Yeah. So I think we have to consider all the aspects. Yeah. I think it's one solution, vehicle to grid, but from a physical perspective, of course, it would be much better to have batteries on low-cost design for stationary applications. This will always be much cheaper than using vehicle-specified batteries for vehicle-to-grid applications. That's a fact.
What I can imagine, I totally agree. What I can imagine is that you use it as a second life. You know, when it's not necessary or usable for your car anymore, then you use it as a stationary. And to add to the other point in terms of degradation of the battery, question is also usually for the grid you have something that you can count on, and it's quite difficult. But there is on Sunday another panel about vehicle to grid. I'm keen to learn more about it. But usually you have to have a solution that you can count on. And if I don't plug my car in the next day because I do another business trip and people think my car is there, you know. How does that work?
Actually, I think the key is that we don't take it as a purely black or white question. It's just a matter of extent and also a matter of occasions. For example, 2 weeks ago, as we mentioned, there was a major typhoon hit Haikou city. Some of our NEO users, they use the bidirectional charging facility to leverage the batteries from the car to support their family just for several hours because the whole city was out of electricity for half a day or so. So yeah, just for...
But imagine the price they would have paid in that moment to get back electricity. So that's a different business. But I fully agree, yeah? It's then a matter of what am I willing to pay, and is it worth then to use the battery? And I fully agree. In such a situation, it absolutely makes sense. The technology makes sense. The only point I was mentioning is we need first a very accurate planning to get back to Georg's point, yeah? When do I park my car? When do I plan to leave? What kind of state of charge do I expect? What do I need for my trip? Yeah. So, but I agree as well with you, Li-Hong. If we have AI algorithms in place and we have a complex network that can really sum up to this virtual power storage system, it's a good idea. But at the end customer, as I said, the individual mobility is the reason why we build cars. If we come to a scenario where I have to plan my trip exactly, well, then I can use a train or a bus or whatever. Yeah, that's available today. Individuality is the key for individual mobility, and I think this is an enabler for the whole business that has to be taken into account.
Agree. Thank you very much for that. So that's why we need a holistic design of the whole system. It's not only about the battery or charging, it's about the whole thing. For example, how about if the users, they don't buy the battery, they just lease the battery. We offer a service, we call that battery as a service or BaaS model today in China. The penetration of NEO user of BaaS is above 70%. Among our European users, that penetration rate is always more than 95%. So when people use the battery for interactive, power service, together with the grid, that's not their asset, that's ours. So we as a company, we have to manage the overall differentiation speed. If it's too fast, it's a financial problem for the company. So we need to do two things. One is to financing all the battery assets, leveraging the third party to manage the asset together. And the second thing is to co-work with the battery developer like CATL for long lifespan battery. So the most sensitive factor for the battery residue value is time. How many years you are going to differentiate your battery? Previously we used 8 years. That's the industry standard. So it was really very challenging. And from this year on, we use 12 years. And we hope that in another 2 to 3 years, we can use 15 years to depreciate the battery. The value is the same. If you depreciate it in longer time, everything will be correct. So together with the swapping technology and swapping service, so the users, individual users, they don't need to worry about the value or residue value or the healthy status of their battery. So that's the whole thing, the design. But of course, I really think, other ways, if they have the thorough and holistic design, will work as well, as you mentioned. Of course, the swapping system is not the only truth in this huge transition, but at least, we do what we believe in.
True. And also in some Chinese big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, they're already testing the V2G technologies. And we know that NEO is also building some photovoltaic V2G systems, right? How's that going so far?
Yeah, up to now, we have had altogether more than 300 battery swap stations taking part in the pilot programs together with the state grid, the southern grid, and some of the European power enterprises. So we gained a lot of precious experiences, of course a lot of bitter learnings as well, again, for the preparation for the future.
Yes. So if we look into the future, how do you guys see the competitive landscape of the EV market will look like in the next five years?
I believe there will be still some market shakeout, honestly. There is still a lot of companies that try to enter the market, and some have more mature products. Not everybody is profitable right now. I think it took Tesla 16 years. I think you're aiming for 13 years, if I'm correct. So it's a long...
perhaps shorter than that.
Perfect, even better.
Younger.
It's really a huge investment. And this is why also legacy automakers, they were a bit, looking around. Is it really the thing that they have to invest the money in? Because it's different financial structure if you have VCs or if you invest your own money and you have to report to your shareholders. That's a different time span that you look at. And I don't think that the legacy automakers will completely, diminish. I think they understood what the problems are. They haven't solved them, all of them, but they have a clear picture what the next steps are. So I think it's, as you mentioned earlier, Yohong, it's gonna be a scattered landscape, a lot of options for the consumers, which is good.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think additionally we have to take into account that new means of transportation will come up. I mean, since we have the battery technology, we shortly or briefly talked about two-wheelers, which popped up, rather quickly, and even in some cities so quickly that cities damned to ban again scooters and e-scooters. It was more or less an explosion, and this is something we have to watch out as an industry as well. What is the right meaning of transportation with the new possibilities? I learned right now, even here in China, that drone delivery services are very, very popular. And of course, if you deliver goods with drones or other means of transportation. Somehow you grow the market, but somewhere you may take away of an existing market of delivery service that deliver whatever kind of goods on wheels right now. So yeah, we have to watch the whole landscape, and I think it will transfer a little bit. But I as well agree with Georg when saying, hey, the market will be shaked up. Not all the players will survive, and we will see maybe more concentration, that large players buy smaller one or vice versa. We don't know. There will be a consolidation, but as we said right at the beginning, focus on the segment. There will be niches coming up, even for electric vehicles, from budget to luxury vehicle, where we will see new players that will survive and be successful at the end as well.
Yeah, I always feel thrilled whenever I imagine the future in 5 years, for example. I guess it's not a prediction, it might be wrong, but I guess in China, the penetration rate of new energy vehicle will above 80%. It's a over 20 million unit passenger car market. That will be major change. And of course, the penetration rate will be higher in different degree in different places, but it will be higher everywhere in the future. But I don't believe the cruel competition will be ended. You know, the battle will always be there. We will still be on the way, maybe in different manners with different peers. But still, this will be one of the hottest industry in the whole world. And I hope in 5 years, the sustainable mobility will be a real consensus among all the parties around the world. And the major governments will work together around it, but not fight each other around it.
Yes.
That's my hope.
Yes. The battle is always there. So how do you see the prospects of Chinese EV makers going abroad, especially in regions outside China?
I think going abroad perhaps it's just a temporary topic. I do think all the car makers should be global. All the car makers should be born global, and perhaps for Jörg and George, there is a very old Chinese expression, 闭门造车, is called you produce a car with the door closed, which means impossible. So that expression appeared, I guess, thousands of years ago. So our ancestors, you know, they knew the concept. You cannot make a car by yourself. And I'm wondering why, you know, today it seems that many people forget that, you know, it's just old wisdom lasting for centuries or for millenniums. And I think, you know, everything will go back to normal. And I hope that, and I think, you know, things should be that without international collaboration, no company can produce a perfect car. So the collaboration will be back to the place, but maybe in different manner in the future, but people will realize that it will harm every single party. Today's situation, the geopolitical arguments, etc. It's not healthy for this industry, not for economies, and not for the, as I call that, sustainable mobility. That's the commonwealth for all the human beings, because, you know, no matter what you think, what you are for, and what you are against, we are living in the same place and the only place. I don't believe that we can immigrate to Mars within the foreseeable future. We have only this planet, and we have to treat it well.
Agree.
And what do you?
Nothing to add, yeah?
Yes, we need cooperation, and we only live in one planet. Yes, well, a good reminder, thank you. Yes, we need to cooperate to better live in this planet. And also, how do you guys foresee the competitive dynamics between those legacy automakers and EV companies evolving?
Well, that's a challenging question, yeah. I think the advantage, as I said, is that most of the legacy automakers, they do already have a brand, they do have a market segment we're in, and of course they have to defend it, whereas new players come up with new functionality. As I said right at the beginning, they don't have the history of maintaining vehicles which are in the market, to service aftermarket components. On the other hand, they sometimes do not have the fully established supply chain, they do not have the manufacturing footprint, but at the end, it's a question for the end consumer. Which product do I like best, and which one fits best to my needs and is affordable as much as I can? This is an ongoing competition, as Li Hong already mentioned. This will not stop. We will not get to a point where we say, this is it, and then we stop. No, it's always the same. The better is the enemy of the good, yeah.
I truly respect them. I still think they are highly, highly competitive today and also in the future. But the topic is that everybody of us, no matter it's a legacy brand or new brand like us, everybody need to focus on the future and think about the user's needs and dare to transform. So that's the key. So if you refuse to innovation, to transformation, I think that will be dangerous for everybody, no matter you are old or young. And this is also a potential threat for us. We as a new startup, it's going to be 10 years old. NIO is in car industry is very young, but for organization, I have to say, for some part of the organization, it's already very old. So to reform yourself, keep your pace together with the changing time, and always stay with the users. That's the key. I don't think I don't think the identity is a barrier for anybody for a brighter future. So I hope I hope all of them could be well in the future.
The fear during such a transformation is often to have the fate of Nokia. Maybe you remember there was once a cell phone distributor, but they didn't make it, right? They didn't make it in the time of the touch phones, and this is understood. This is understood by the large automakers, and I think it's not clear that they can make it since the integration, when you have a large organization already, it's not easy to change. So this is the next threshold. How do they manage the change? How do they manage the change in mindset? And how do they really change the new processes that they can really have the right product? Because ultimately it's the product that makes the difference. Innovative products for the markets, the different markets. It's not one size fits all. I think we had this thinking 10, 15 years ago. It's not anymore. And yeah, I'm looking very eager into the future.
I think as Leon already mentioned, one really hard change for the whole industry, or I think Georg mentioned it, will be the change to the software-defined vehicle and the new architectures. Yeah, and here definitively startups have an advantage. We see a lot of startups coming up, starting up from the computing industry, having background more on computing than on vehicle dynamics, and this will be a threat. Yeah, when we really do a future outlook and think about domain controlling these days, but zonal controlling in the future, then I don't like the abbreviation, but from technical performance, vehicles will be computers on wheels, yeah, and the network and the adaptation to the one behind the wheel will be more and more important than it was ever before. That may be a threat that legacy OEMs are facing right now, because our industry, yeah, if we look centuries back, it's a hardware industry, yeah? And if we look to organizations within even tier ones or OEMs, they are organized by the vehicle hardware, the chassis engine departments and whatever. And to think about in new zones in the vehicle and bring that kind of thinking into the vehicle, that may be a real threat. And that's even what we see right now. A lot of arguments why legacy OEMs at the moment stumble and humble a little bit, managing those topics maybe in a much less smarter way than startups do this, if they can start with a vehicle architecture on a white sheet of paper.
Yeah, I just want to go back to one of the previous discussions a little bit. It depends on what the landscape will look like in the end. If it's not a highly monopoly industry, I think the seats will be enough for many of us, you know, to cope with the transformation and get the right things done in a right manner and be ourselves. So I truly think that the majority, at least the majority of the legacy brands, they are going to go through their own process of innovation, and together with some of the new companies, not every new company, some of the new companies, we are going to form the new future of the industry in years.
Yes, the history still goes on. We will see how those good products survive, and different customers can pick different seats.
Yeah,
that
that
they
is
need.
very much unlike the mobile phone business.
Yes.
Mobile phone is another story. It's a monopoly business. If you count, you know, number 1, 2, they're profitable. Number 3, even number 3 is not profitable in the world. So it's not the example that's by which we can predict our car business.
Yes, true. We hope to discuss that later in maybe our next discussion. And thank you guys so much for joining us in this very insightful discussion. I don't know about you guys, I really learned a lot from you guys from this discussion on CGTN BizTalk. And we hope that our discussions today would turn into action and maybe innovations in the coming years. And thank you guys again for joining us. They are Georg Krotendorst, Senior Vice President of R&D at Magna, and Mr. Qing, co-founder and president of NEO, and also Gil Grog, partner at EFS Consulting. And also thank our audience so much for joining us in this discussion. Hope to see you guys next time. Stay tuned and bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
谢谢。